Welcome to partialarc.com. Don't do that.
I'm here to save the day. I'm here to save the day.
Soon I will be invincible. Because comics. Welcome to Because Comics. This is episode 58. I'm your host, Jay Jones, and I'm joined by my co-host, the thirsty Mike Christensen.
How much? It's just I was in the desert for so long.
Yeah, why did you go all the way out there with no food or water? Oh, wow. Yeah, I probably should have given that to you a lot earlier when you first arrived. That's, man, really.
I've been here
really
for hours,
Yeah,
Jay.
I know. Wow. You feel better?
Hey guys, let's talk about comic books.
Woohoo!
Every so often we read comic books. We buy them online usually because
It's easier.
Don't go to the store
And
that often
technology allows it.
because I don't work near the store anymore, so it's just
Terrible.
less easy to
Terrible.
do. But if you go to the store, you can find these on shelves. If you don't, you can find them online. Jay, what comics are we reading?
So this is from the publisher Image. The comic is called The Goddamned, written by Jason Aaron and R.M. Guera.
Why does it not at all surprise me that that's a Jason Aaron comic?
Yeah,
just from
I know.
The title.
Well, because he writes comics like Southern Bastards.
Yeah.
Jason Aaron is across the board, he's a very dynamic writer where he'll write things like Southern Bastards, then he'll be writing the Star Wars series,
Yeah.
and then he'll come and write a comic like this called The Goddamned. And it's a very interesting comic. Now, right out the gate, I will say this is a grim, dark comic. So if you're going in looking for a lighthearted Star Wars-y feel because you read him from Star Wars and you're like, oh, I want to check out more Jason Aaron comics, maybe read the Thor run, but
Or that Ghost Rider run where that supervillain wears an eye on his head.
exactly. But this or the X-Men run, but
Ninja Nuns, I think, were in that comic too.
Ninja Nuns?
I don't remember.
perfect. But this one is definitely a very grimdark tale, and you can go right into it without knowing anything. I went into it without knowing anything about it, and it was quite surprising to find out what it actually was. The art is very dynamic and very stark and very beautiful, but it's also very gritty and raw, and it's beautifully drawn by R.M. Guera, who actually worked with Jason Aaron on their award-winning comic Scalped, which is kind of put them, I believe, both of them on the scene in a big way. I know Jason Aaron had been doing stuff, I think, before them, but that was one that really brought him into the forward front and, probably helped get him some of the bigger projects he's been doing now.
That's the first time I heard his name, yeah.
Yeah, and this comic is, just from a high-level premise, this comic takes place, it's kind of like a biblical noir, if it's a weird way to think of it.
Ooh.
It takes place before the flood in Genesis. And each comic opens with a term from Genesis or a quick verse from the Bible about the flood or before the flood or how bad it was. And basically, this is taking place in a world where humanity, flood has not happened yet, with Noah and the ark and all of that. This is where humanity is at its absolute lowest and everybody is terrible. And I mean the worst. And the earth looks terrible and it's just so bad, guys. The first few pages of this comic, we open up, the comic opens, I believe Jason Aaron has a thing about opening on animals or things relieving themselves in certain areas, he does in Southern Bastards. Is that comic opens with a dog crapping on the side of the road, and
Yeah,
it's
that's right.
Southern Bastards. This one opens with a one-armed child peeing into what is referred to as like a kind of a feces pond or something like that. It's really disgusting, this place where we open and we meet our main character, who unfortunately wakes up in this pond, and that's where we kind of start this adventure. I know it's a bit gross, but our main character who we follow, and if you don't...
A bit gross?
A bit gross. If you don't want to find out who the main character is, because that's a bit of, not too much of a surprise, but it's a bit of the main point of the story, you can again go into this comic cold. But if you're still with us, the main character of this story is Cain from the Bible.
Ah, yes.
Who is considered the father of murder, so to speak.
The first man to kill,
The first
yeah.
man to kill. The story of Cain and Abel, the son and sons of Adam and Eve. And Cain got jealous of his brother and killed Abel. Classic Bible story. But Cain in this story, he's kind of given a specific twist because he cannot die. In the story, he's been walking the lands for 1,600 years, and he cannot die. He's tried to die. He's very much in a way that's much like Hulk is in Marvel Comics or Deadpool in a specific run, where they just want to die. They just want to figure out a way to leave this world, and he is unable to find someone or anything that can kill him. He's thrown himself in lava. He's jumped off of giant mountains. He's fought tons of people. People have killed him, cut off his head. Animals have eaten him, and he just somehow keeps coming back. So it's a story about basically this man who started all of this. He very much talks about how the murder that he committed pretty much spiraled out and created the terrible worldscape that they're in now. And now he just is kind of living in it, cursing his life and cursing the world and trying to find a way out. And as we progress over several issues, I believe there's only about 4 issues out. The 5th is coming out soon. We start to see how Kane and certain things are happening that are starting to change his perspective or starting to create a redeeming arc for this character. And we also meet some other kind of famous biblical characters with a bit of a twist, a bit of a harsher twist on their character styles. And it's very interesting and, again, very stark, very grim, but there is a lot of action, there's a lot of brutality. In the very first comic, there's very little dialogue, and there's some pretty brutal battle fight scenes that RM really doesn't hold back on at all. And again, really laying out just the terrifying world that all of these people live in. And it is not a happy tale. I mean, I'm sure it's working towards some sort of redemptive arc.
Do you not know the story of the arc?
I mean,
because
I know.
the redemptive arc is we're done with all these people
dead.
now.
Yeah. And I mean, that's definitely lining up, and we do in certain ways see the beginnings of what's going to happen with the arc, with the flood, with characters involved with those specific actions, and even some supernatural characters that are coming into play as well before all of this. It's kind of like all the chess pieces lining up to lead to what will eventually be the 40 days and 40 nights of the flood and how Kane is involved with that. So it's a really interesting take. I highly recommend it. Definitely check it out. And again, that's The Goddamned by Jason Aaron and drawn by R.M. Guera. Mike, what's your pull?
My pull is the opposite.
Oh, it is? It is an absolute darkness in a comic?
I think in every way it's the opposite. My comic is called Joyride.
Oh.
And it's written by Jackson Lanzing and Collin Kelly. Art by Marcus Toe and colors by Irma Nivilla. There's 2 I's in there before the V. So I think Nivilla or Nivilla. And it is set in the far future. Earth is a fascist regime, and there's a structure around the Earth to keep us safe from the outside aliens that we know are out there.
Oh.
And the moon is a gun, but it's pointed down.
At Earth?
At Earth. And it's about a girl and her friend who just want to get out and go on a joyride. Essentially, they steal a spaceship and get out and actually see stars for the first time in their life.
So everybody that living in this kind of this society, they're not allowed to leave.
Yeah. And then we are done with Earth by the end of issue 1. We are out in space.
Wow.
Just shenanigans at that point.
That's awesome.
Like, it is just a fun... It's light, but it is still very meaty. There's a lot of good emotional work, especially in issue 3. I think it's a 4-issue miniseries total, I believe. But it's about its 3rd issue is out at this point. And the 3rd issue is really well done because it starts with them being stranded in space, and they're like, well, we'll just have a little dance party. And then when that wears off, they're like, all right, well, now we got to fix this problem and like actually deal with this. But the main character, Uma, is very take it on the chin, very just like, she just wants to go out and have this adventure. And we're starting to get a sense of like what her upbringing is that changed her from being in lockstep with everyone else in the world. Mm-hmm. But she also has friends with her who didn't have that same upbringing and are wrestling a little bit with the whole idea of like, well, here we are breaking all of the laws that we've ever had on Earth, like all of them, like just by leaving and being out here and talking to aliens, like that's all super illegal. But
yeah, so they're not on board with it as much as she is.
I mean, there's confliction even within themselves and within the group. There's friction there. But also like, it's just a really well done series. Like there's cool world building, like when they go to the moon to get past the moon to get off the planet. It's referred to as they're flying up to the safe sky, fascist Valhalla, home of the gun that threatens the world.
Wow.
Yeah. And then there's an alien that only speaks in, not emoticons, but very much like emojis.
Wow.
And there's an alien who's also, that's a robot rather, an alien robot. There's an alien who like smokes and I think maybe speaks with a southern accent, who's like a con man kind of thief guy. But there's
do they
also
all look like humanoid aliens, or do they look like very different weird creatures?
They're not like completely out of the realm. They're not like jellyfish or whatever. They're humanoid-ish.
Okay.
But they're not just green humans or blue humans, because it's comics and you can kind of
do crazy
do it.
stuff.
Well,
with it,
there's some insect men in issue 2.
Nice.
As you go in space, you got to get some insect men.
Of course.
I'm sorry, I don't make the rules. Insects
are just all over space.
You have to do insect men at some point because like they're just that's how you know it's aliens. It's cool.
Of course.
But it's I don't know. I'm having a hard time articulating. I don't want to say too much about the story, about where it's going, but like clearly there's ramifications for what they're doing. Both in the sense of like Earth's response and in the fact that they're in open space meeting aliens that they know nothing about. Because guess what? Earth culture doesn't prepare you for that kind of stuff. Because you're not supposed to leave the planet.
Right.
Ever. But most of the consequences seem to be with Earth and even within the own group, within the people, not all of whom were necessarily intended to be a part of this Joyride. There were some unintended consequences from the end of issue 1, and it's a really cool series, and I'm really, really digging it. The art is terrific. The colors are sensational. I highly recommend you guys check out. Even just the covers are really cool and striking, but then the interior art is also really, really engaging and delightful. And yeah, I would definitely suggest you guys check out Joyride from Boom Studios.
Wow, okay. Well, great pull, and that'll be taking us into our main segment. Mike, kick things off.
Marvel Team Up. Aunt May and Franklin Richards versus Galactus. So, I don't want to describe the cover of this comic, because I think it's a spoiler. Listeners, you'll be able to go on partialart.com, you'll see the logo, you'll see the cover, rather. You'll see what I'm talking about. But for Jay, and for those of you who are just listening to it...
Keep me in the dark.
Yeah, but I will tell you a couple things that appear on the cover. This is Marvel Team Up number 137, and as it says on the title, Aunt May and Franklin Richards versus Galactus.
Crazy.
A couple things that you should be aware of. The first is in the top right corner, how it's got a little picture of Spider-Man's face and the Marvel logo. He's got a thought balloon and says, "What's going on here? This is supposed to be my comic," because the premise of Marvel Team Up is usually Spider-Man teaming up with different people. I don't think it's always Spider-Man, because I think sometimes it was the Thing, but regardless.
Typically, usually Spider-Man.
Spider-Man are the Thing because they're the most versatile characters in the Marvel Universe.
Even more surprising, most assuredly not Aunt May. She's
Right.
not usually in the Marvel Team Up roster.
The second is a caption that says, "Not a hoax, not a what if, not an imaginary story."
Whoa.
And the third is a stamp towards the bottom that says, "Beware, it's Editor's Assistant Month. Don't say we didn't warn you."
Oh, jeez.
This comic is written by Michael Carlin and drawn by Greg LaRoque. And it begins with Nova. Nova is the...
One of the, is it the kid Nova, or is this like the original Nova who is the adult?
This is neither. This is a different character, also named Nova, who's a glowing woman who is...
Oh, this isn't from the Nova Corps.
Right. This is a Herald of Galactus.
Oh, okay. Pre-Silver Surfer?
Post-Silver Surfer.
Gotcha.
Because Silver Surfer is the first one that we met. But basically, this planet is exploding, and this glowing woman, who we know as Nova, who's one of the Heralds of Galactus during his lineup, post-Silver Surfer, is dying. She dies.
Wait, Nova dies from the explosion?
Nova dies in this explosion. She's too close to this blast of this planet that just sort of vaporizes. And this machine comes and picks her up and takes her back to Galactus in his... Definitely not a Death Star ship, because that's the thing he flies around in. I'm sorry, it looks like a Death Star, but it predates the Death Star.
I mean, he's like, you know what? I love this ship.
Why mess with a good thing?
Exactly.
Basically, it flies back to him, and he says, "Well, I'm weaker than I thought I was. My former heralds would have survived an explosion like that. So clearly, I wasn't able to provide her with the power she needed, and these people chose to destroy themselves so that I would not get the energy of their planet."
Whoa, they blew up their own planet?
Yeah, a death they chose over living to see their planet drained of its energy by me. They hoped that through their martyrdom, I might expire before finding an alternate planet. They may have calculated correctly.
Ooh.
So he's not sure what to do, but he knows that at this point he doesn't really have the ability to sustain someone like, Nova. He needs to find someone who can actually help him find a planet, someone who can actually carry his power and have some power of their own. He says he only knows of one person, one planet where he can find someone like that.
Oh boy.
And he sets his sights for Earth. We cut to Earth and we cut to a circus where Peter is there with Aunt May, Mary Jane is there. Peter and Mary Jane are having a bit of a rough time, but Aunt May invited Mary Jane, which makes it even more awkward.
Yeah, definitely more awkward.
Yeah, it's just sort of like, it's not really how any of it was planned, but he's trying to have fun with Aunt May, and Mary Jane is like, well, Peter's paying for everything, so yes, another round of snacks over here, because they're exes and it's awkward and people make decisions. Aunt May is sitting next to a very friendly little blonde boy who's having just a great time at the circus, just loving it. Also, his uncle is having a terrific time. His uncle, of course, being a giant orange rock-skinned man in a trench coat and fedora.
Does she know that it's the thing?
I think she does. It doesn't seem to faze her at all, but I also don't know if she just doesn't notice because she's very elderly.
I mean, that's got to be really, really bad eyesight to be like, oh, sir, you're a little boy. By the way, you have terrible, terrible skin.
She's very focused on the kid and not the very loud man. You're like, hey, Franklin, did you see that fella, that polka dot underwear on that clown when he dropped his drawers? It's like, how would you not?
Yeah, how would you not notice?
He's the thing.
The thing. Ben Grimm is very, very loud.
He's, by definition, like by his name, the least person-y person.
Yeah.
But anyway, and, Reed is there. The whole family's there. The whole Fantastic Four is there. And Reed...
Now, they're in the public eye, the Fantastic Four. Were they dressed up as not themselves? Like, were they hiding? Were they disguising themselves?
No, they never do that.
So they were just, like, hanging out at the circus, and, like, Peter Parker just happened to sit next to them with Aunt May? Like, did they know that they were there? Like,
no.
Okay.
Yeah, it's Spider-Man. That's what he does.
He just kind of runs into the Fantastic Four
to
circus.
To be fair, it does happen, and they live in Marvel, New York. So, Yeah,
I know.
Pretty much.
It's about 50-50 superheroes. 50% civilians, 50% superheroes.
And I mean, the circus is in town. Where else are you going to be?
Exactly.
I guess.
It's the biggest thing these days. Still.
Anyway, yeah, definitely. Anyway, Reed sees a headline on someone's newspaper and just cranes his neck over to look. Very much like that.
Honestly, is kind of disrespectful to the circus performers. Like, guys, we're trying to do fantastic things up here.
Yeah.
Stop being fantastic in the audience and distracting everybody.
Well, what else is not very respectful? He and his family have to leave. There's some sort of crisis going on in San Diego.
In the middle of a show.
San Diego, they got to go to San Diego.
Why do they have to go to San Diego?
Because that's where the editors are. They're at Comic-Con.
Oh, wait, what?
It's Editor's Assistant Month.
Okay.
Because the editors are at Comic-Con.
Okay.
Anyway, there's something going on in San Diego. The answers to what that is are apparently in the Dazzler comic of that month.
Oh, good. I hope everybody picked up the Dazzler comic.
But they have to leave the show, but Ben doesn't want to leave. Ben just wants to stay here and have fun at the circus. And Peter's like, well, I should go too, because I'm clearly overhearing the Fantastic Four talking about some sort of crisis. I should go. And here, Mary Jane and Aunt May, here, enjoy the show. And he slips off, dresses up as Spider-Man, comes back and says, hey, Fantastic Four, you can totally trust this kid with Aunt May. I know she doesn't look at me like she trusts me right now, but it's cool. Like, I know her nephew. She's good people. You can leave Franklin with her. It's all going to be fine. So the Fantastic Four run off. Ben actually doesn't leave with them, but he does leave, which, like...
Where does he go?
I think he's maybe not just hitching a ride with them. He's just going to the... I don't know. It's not really clear. The point is he wanders away like, this is as far as I'm going, guys.
I love how Spider-Man convinced the Fantastic Four to leave their kid with Aunt May.
Yeah,
I have this kind of credentials.
But anyway, the Fantastic Four and Spider-Man head off to the Baxter Building. They take off in their pogo plane. That's what they call it.
The pogo plane?
Yeah, I don't know.
I thought it was called the Fantasticar.
Well, that's for on the planet. Wait, they're still on the... I don't know. It's called the pogo plane sometimes. Anyway, almost immediately after they leave, Galactus' Death Star shows up on the top of the Baxter Building, and Galactus shows up outside it, looking like a Macy's Day Parade.
Wait,
Blimp.
so he's full size, right?
Yep.
It's not like tiny Galactus?
No, he's the size of the Baxter Building, almost.
Wow.
Almost. And he just shouts, Reed Richards, I have urgent need of your abilities. Reed Richards, Galactus awaits. But Reed Richards isn't home.
Yeah, he's in San Diego.
But he senses that, that residual power, that power he's looking for. He senses it. It's pretty close. So he goes to the circus where the power is.
Which is Franklin, right?
Yeah, Franklin Richards, who is an Omega level mutant.
Yeah.
Which is like the most powerful. I've never understood his powers, but they're pretty powerful.
What are his powers again?
I don't know, but they're pretty powerful.
Okay, that's good
He
to
can
know.
like reshape reality and stuff.
What?
Yeah. Anyway, he tears... Sorry, not Franklin. Galactus tears the roof off of the building that the circus is in. They're not in a tent. They're in like a...
Those poor performers, man.
Like
They're
an
trying to just
arena
put on
or
a
something.
regular show.
Yeah, but they booked a gig in Marvel's New York, so they had to know.
Yeah, they didn't know what was going on.
Something was going to happen. So he arrives, our good friend Galactus, and, people are running around, and it's chaos, and Aunt May's hanging out with Franklin. She's like, no, run, get out of the way. And she's like, he's like, I'm scared. I don't know. And she says to Galactus, you see what you did, you big bully? You scared this little boy. You should be ashamed of yourself. Why don't you pick on someone your own size?
Man, Aunt May is crazy.
Yep. Silence, aged one. I am weak. I have need for a herald. Well, that hardly concerns us now, does it? I can sense the boy's power, greater even than his parents'. I can help him to realize the full potential of that power. In my weakened state, it is merely practicality to seek one whose power is great to begin with. I can and will have the boy. There is no pain, boy, only power. And he shoots lasers out of his eyes to turn Franklin into his herald.
Right.
Aunt May steps in the way.
Oh boy.
So she starts glowing.
Aunt May gets cosmic power?
Aunt May becomes a glowing woman, glowing gold, calling herself Golden Oldie. Not a hoax. Not an imaginary tale.
Golden Oldie?
Not a what if.
Golden Oldie
Yeah.
is a legit in the pantheon of Marvel heroes.
Oh, trust me, Jay. We haven't even got to the craziest thing on this page.
That's insane.
Aunt May, you're on fire or something. Do not fear, Franklin, for no harm shall befall you while you're in my care.
No, she's now speaking like some cosmic entity.
When she said first line, her first line is, "No, Franklin, May Parker is no more. From this day forth, there is only Golden Oldie."
That's one of the best lines ever.
I think so. An unfortunate mishap, though it is good to see my power levels are still substantial enough to bestow the gift of the power cosmic to so unlikely a herald. Time grows short, Oldie.
That's one way to say, man, I really screwed this one up.
Whoops. You must seek out suitable nourishment for Galactus hungers. And Franklin says, wait up, if Galactus is hungry, and he pulls out of his bag, why don't you give him this pack of Twinkies? They're my favorite.
Thanks, Twinkies, for supporting this issue
The
of
ad
Marvel Comics.
it is literally holding up to camera a bag of Twinkies.
It's amazing.
And he puts it on Galactus's finger. There is no use from my partaking of such a minuscule portion of Earthman's food. Foolish boy, your gesture is one of compassion, but doomed to abysmal failure. This morsel is useless to me. I ingested it, and its effect is nothing. And then he eats it, and he goes, hold, I'm mistaken. There are energies within the morsel that replenish my hungering system. Herald, there must be more.
No.
I exist only to serve you, Galactus.
No.
And she starts thinking, what am I saying? What am I doing? I don't know how I know, but I'm swelling with power cosmic. I can fly and fire pure energy. This whole thing seems like a nightmare. I can sense that in that locked room is what Galactus wants. And she unlocks the snack bar.
The concession stand?
Yeah. And Franklin grabs a box of Twinkies, throws it in Galactus' hand. Galactus eats it. Herald, my power begins to return.
Wow.
Find me more of this substance.
This is the adventure where Aunt May gets cosmic powers and helps Galactus eat a bunch of Twinkies?
Yeah, so Aunt May takes can't leave Franklin alone with Galactus for very reasonable reasons.
Makes
so
sense.
She flies outside and gives Franklin to Mary Jane. Mary Jane, will you please keep an eye on Franklin? And then flies away.
Does Mary Jane be like, I have no idea who you are?
She says, Aunt May? And then I shouldn't be long. I'm just going to the store. And Aunt May flies away.
Wow.
The power cosmic is maybe the perfect in every way. No more arthritis, no more geritol, no more bingo. But if I'm in such good shape, why do I feel so bad? And then Galactus, off on his own, sitting here in this arena, is thinking, strange how simple an item could quell the planet-craving hunger I felt for so long. Why each serving contains my minimum daily requirement. And then Aunt May returns with just a bed sheet full of Twinkies.
Wow.
Dumps them out, and he says, that is hardly enough to still the pains. I need more. Sorry, the pangs. Hunger pangs.
Yeah.
I have bestowed upon you the power cosmic. You must use it. Go beyond the boundaries of the city for more Twinkies. So she goes to Queens, and she goes to...
I hear for this month only, if you buy one, you can get another Twinkie for free.
She goes to the home of a man she knows, Nate, who is about her age.
Oh.
I believe he's blind and also has a wheelchair.
And cosmic powers?
No.
Oh.
No. I don't know for sure. I mean, he's wearing dark glasses, but he also seems confused who Aunt May is, which could be true whether or not he can see or not. So,
makes sense.
She's
probably not speaking like she normally speaks, and she's bright gold.
Well, she also came in through the window.
Oh, right. A lot of things aren't adding up.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. He says, you look so young. So either he is cited or it's an editing mistake. How could that have happened in this comic?
How?
I couldn't tell you.
Yeah, so weird.
But anyway, she describes that, he says, like, you look so young. What happened? Can you make it happen to the rest of us? Because there's other old people there, too, not just him. And she says, please don't say that, Nathan. Gaining all this power has caused me to lose every other thing I've had or ever hoped to have. You don't want this to happen to you. She flies away.
Now,
Uh-huh.
the things that she lost were... Peter?
Yeah.
Why?
Because now she's working for Galactus. That's a pretty demanding job.
So far, her job has been gathering Twinkies.
Okay, here's the scene where she flies around the world to do it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, she flies around the world to get all the Twinkies.
Also cosmic power, though. Not a bad deal.
Okay, but we cut to Galactus standing in a mountain of Twinkies. Rolling hills of Twinkies.
I would have loved to have been in that meeting. All right, on page 11, I want you to draw a mountain of... Okay, this is Twinkies right here. You want me to draw a mountain of Twinkies? Yes.
You have done well, my herald, and now I shall partake of the Twinkies' energies. And there's the big panel full of Kirby crackle and the word Thzack. And then all the wrappers are just sort of fluttering to the ground. He says, and thrive. You've extracted all the vast energies of all the Twinkies on Earth. There are no more. Then there is naught to do, save to begin your service as a herald to Galactus, with the more conventional duty of seeking out suitable energy-laden worlds for my consumption. So they head out in space.
Wow. So he ate all the Twinkies on the planet.
Yep.
Wow. Is that why we don't have Twinkies anymore, Mike? Is it because of Galactus?
Yeah, this thing definitely happened. And they fly out into space. And she says, maybe being a herald won't be so bad after all, but no matter what amazing things I can do now, I still can't return to my loved ones. Nathan and Peter. Oh, Peter. The only thing I can hope to do as Galactus' Harbinger is bypass any populated worlds. There must be plenty of suitable uninhabited worlds that... Huh? What's that ahead? My heavens, it's... And floating in space, large enough to be a moon, is
it a space station?
It's a giant packet of Twinkies.
Okay, wait. Hold on a second. In space, Mike.
Yeah.
Just in space.
Yeah.
Just out in space.
Just a package with 2 Twinkies inside.
But these 2 Twinkies are...
Very large.
The size of a small moon.
They're about the size of skyscrapers each.
All right. Here we go. I'm ready to... Hold on, let me strap myself in here. I'm ready to hear what the hell is going on now.
No, you're not.
Oh, God.
She says, I must signal him to come to see this find. And she calls out a beam of light. And then an energy ray fires past her. I'm being fired upon. I must protect myself. And then... Jesus Christ.
Oh, boy.
What is this thing? And why is it attacking me? And someone swoops in. Stand back from my creation, intruder. Don't toy with me. Everyone in this sector knows of my planets. They may ridicule me, but they know of my planets. This figure, about human-sized, pale, kind of doughy, wears a chef's hat.
No.
Looks a little like the Michelin Man, but less made of Michelin, more made of dough.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
No, that's not true. That's impossible.
Read this comic, Jay.
What? Mike, you telling me like a Pillsbury...
Hang on. He is never named.
Doughboy.
He is never named in this comic, so I don't want to get into any sort of copywritten characters or any sort of presumptions of...
We all know deep down in our hearts
artist
the goddamn
intents.
Pillsbury Doughboy.
He's describing this planet. He says, yeah, they all know of my planets. She says, but I do not. It's not a donut. It's a moist, light sponge planet with a creamy white filling. When my people banished me for heresy, they thought I was just...
His people banished him for heresy.
Yeah.
Creating this planet of Twinkies was an act of heresy.
Was a slight against gods and men. Yes.
No mortal creature should craft something so abominationous.
They thought I was just baking donuts too. I am a creator. I create these worlds. They are not just snacks. My worlds are suitable for life, but were created solely as an offering to the Almighty Lord.
What?
And then
It's the most insane thing I've ever heard of.
Galactus shows up. And she, Golden Oldie says, I've found the perfect planet. And this
It is literally a giant Twinkie.
and this boy of dough says, it's him, my Lord and God. At last he's come for my sacrifice. And he kneels in space somehow. I have prayed for your coming, O Lord. And she says, I have led you to this living, thriving Twinkie planet, Master. And this is the chef who baked it. Excellent. If I may be so bold as to make a suggestion to Galactus, why not take on this doughy boy as your herald?
It seems like a pretty legitimate reason.
You will never again be forced to ravage existing worlds. Yeah, I could whip up an endless supply of cream-filled planets. I would be honored to serve, my lord. There is a certain logic to your words. Very well, it shall be done. But what about my powers, asks Golden Oldie. They are yours to do with as you choose, as payment for your outstanding service. Otherwise, you are released. Galactus turns, as the narration tells us, and strides into the spongy soil of the planet. Slowly, he disappears beneath the churning surface, pulling from the world its every atom of energy. And though there is chaotic tumult all around him, Galactus placidly sinks into the creamy middle of the world and ingests it.
Oh my
and we
God.
see this thing basically going supernova in the background as she's flying away. This should keep Galactus from destroying any sentient life in the future. Now, I can't wait to get back to my family and friends on Earth. I hope they can adjust to the new Aunt May. I hope I can too. And she lands next to Mary Jane and Franklin and turns back into normal. Actually, what happens is that as Franklin touches her, the energy gets sucked into Franklin.
Oh.
And he's like...
Not cool, Franklin.
He's like, wee, that was fun, let's do it again!
We retconned your powers, bye!
And then the Fantastic Four arrive in their Fantastic Car, or Pogo, I don't know, who cares? And they're like, well, we hear Galactus was sighted near New York, and May asks, Galactus? What's Galactus? And they're all like, oh, nothing happened here? That's strange. And Johnny Storm says, turns out in San Diego, there were some editors in trouble, but that Dazzler girl took care of everything before we even got there, which you can read more about in Dazzler number 30.
I mean, it sounds exciting.
So when we heard Galactus was here, we hightailed it right back. Well, to be honest, it would seem that your timing was a little off again, because Galactus was, and, you know, that's Aunt May trying to brush everything off, and then there's this blast of energy, and Galactus appears over the Baxter building, just, you know, crosses his arms, leans over the side. I hate to bother you guys again, but anybody got a glass of milk? And then Peter Parker wakes up.
Oh, God!
Just then, in Peter Parker's apartment. Oh, thank goodness, it was only a dream. That settles that, Petey, old boy.
So did all readers thinking this was a real story.
No more late-night Twinkies but right before bed. That was a pretty horrible nightmare. Imagine kindly, sweet old Aunt May, Galactus' herald. What a hoot. Or is it? She kind of did all right with him. Then, editor Danny Fingerton, San Diego hotel room.
What?
Editor Danny Fingerton wakes up. Oh, thank goodness, it was only a dream. Woo! For a second there, I thought that my assistant Bob Denetail screwed up Marvel Team-Up number 137. Then, down the hall in that same San Diego hotel, Editor-in-Chief Jim Shooter wakes up.
What the hell is going on right now?
He's holding a little Garfield stuffed animal. Thank goodness, it was only a dream, Garfy Poo. This trip to the San Diego Comics Convention with all of Marvel's editors has got me so excited, I can't sleep. And then Stan Lee wakes up.
Oh, wow.
In his nightcap and, like, night dress. Like, you know, he dresses like a Charles Dickens character. Oh, thank goodness it was only a dream. Any true believer knows Galactus doesn't drink milk. And then in deep space, Galactus wakes up.
Whoa.
Oh, thank goodness it was only a dream. Nova, that nightmare upset my stomach. Can you get me a glass of warm milk? And then everyone in the suburban town of Readerville, USA wakes up and thinks, oh, thank goodness, it was only a dream. And as the caption says, like we said, not a hoax, not an imaginary story, not a what if.
Just the weirdest thing you've ever read. That is an insane story. I half thought that there was a real story out there where Galactus had a herald that was the Pillsbury Doughboy and was like, hey, why don't we see Galactus in comics anymore? Or an even better story would have to be the writer who got that after the fact and was like, okay, well, I want Galactus in my story, but I now have to write in a segment here where he reasons why he's no longer eating entire planets of Twinkies. And he lost his Pillsbury Doughboy herald.
Yeah.
Maybe he ate him.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Wow. That is a really, really ridiculous story, Mike.
Yes, it
We've
is.
had some really ridiculous stories on here before.
Yes, we have.
That one's pretty absurd.
I think that one's up on the list, yeah.
Wow. And what's the cover of the comic look like?
Oh, it's-
now that I can hear what it is.
It's the Golden Oldie flying
It's the
through.
Golden Oldie flying.
Flying in front of Galactus, holding Franklin's arm, and he's holding a little packet of what are clearly now you understand to be Twinkies.
Wow. That's crazy. Twinkies must have just been like, hey, by the way, we want you to write a comic about us, but like on every single page and how amazing it is. And they were like, well,
Well, they did a lot of tie-ins. They did a lot of ads.
Well, you're right. I don't even know why I'm saying that. We talked about a comic where Superman and the Quick Bunny saved the world.
No, I mean, Marvel Comics would have a regular ad of, like, they would have regular ads of, like one-page ads of, like, Spider-Man.
Oh, of course. And
yeah.
like, a one-page ads, but I mean, like, injecting it into the entirety of a story.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Wow. Oh, my God. All right. Well, that was our main segment, and boy, was it weird.
And how?
And now that'll be taking us to our game. Would you rather? Alright, everyone, this is our game, Would You Rather. This works like regular Would You Rather, but we inject comics into it. So, Mike, for this episode, the question is, if we are working off of the principles of, just like Spider-Man, if you're bitten by a radioactive spider, you get said spider powers. Would you rather be bitten by a radioactive pigeon or a radioactive squirrel?
Squirrel.
Why a radioactive squirrel, Mike?
Because
What kind of powers are you going to get from a radioactive squirrel?
Pigeons are not very smart.
They're not very smart, but spiders are also dumb, and that didn't seem to affect Peter Parker.
Spiders are incredible architects.
Yes, but they can't make science labs and web shooters.
They don't run into walls.
True. Look, I'm not defending pigeons. They are garbage creatures.
Yeah.
But
Why would I want to be a garbage creature?
you can gain the power of flight, one would assume.
What, would we assume that?
I would assume that. Because you seem to like comic hero animals when they give you powers. They always give you the cool ones that you would get from an animal. You never get the
Spider-Man
crappy
made
one.
his web shooters.
Like, Spider-Man didn't, like, grow, like, a billion eyes. I mean, he did that one time when he actually turned into a giant spider
Into
person.
Man-Spider in the cartoon, yeah.
But, I mean, when he's regular Spider-Man...
I had that toy. That toy was the best.
It was the best. But he gets all the pluses of it, but none of the minuses of being Spider-Man. So, what I'm trying to say is, what can we imagine would you rather be bitten by if you had to be bitten by a radioactive one? A pigeon or a squirrel? Now, pigeon, I have to assume you can fly, and probably resistances to garbage or eating toxins or things like that, because they're, like, littered with, like, diseases and things like that.
But what other advantages would they have?
Flight and resistance to toxins, and that's about it.
Yeah.
What would the advantages of a squirrel have?
You're fast.
Sure.
Run up walls really fast.
Yep.
And if you're anything like Squirrel Girl, you can't be defeated.
Well, that's assuming. That's Squirrel Girl. That's not Squirrel Radioactive Squirrel Powers.
Squirrel Girl summoned a bunch of squirrels and managed to defeat Dr. Doom
That's true.
in her first appearance.
That's true, but that's Squirrel Girl.
Squirrels are hardy.
How hardy?
Hardier than pigeons, I would wager.
A squirrel versus a pigeon?
Here's the thing. I think pigeons are more pests than squirrels are.
That's true.
Quite honestly.
But a lot of people would assume spiders are pests as well. And ants, too. And guess what? We've got two popular superheroes with movies out of both of those.
That's true. I mean, it's a tough choice. I don't know.
Squirrels?
I think squirrels. It'd be fun.
Just like squirrels better?
Yeah.
Well, what would I guess your outfit for Squirrel Man or Squirrel Boy would probably be better than Pigeon Man.
Yeah.
Pigeon Boy.
Yeah, because what kind of colors are you working with? Just grays?
Just grays?
Maybe greens?
Maybe greens, yeah.
Squirrels, you can kind of just you got browns and reds and oranges.
Yeah, some earth tones you could work in there.
Yeah.
Do
some fun.
You got like an animal with ears. Ear outfits are always cool.
Yeah.
Pigeons, you really just have that giant bird face.
Yeah.
Like a nice beak.
Yeah.
You could but you call your lair like the nest or the garbage pile.
Do squirrels have nests? No.
They have
Squirrels
like a nest. I think it's like a nest, right?
Is it a nest?
I think they're called nests. Roosts? Nope, those are hens.
Those are
Squirrel tree.
caves? No, those are bats and beholders.
Squirrel hives.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah, it's a hive of squirrels.
Squirrel farms.
Squirrel farms?
Yeah. Didn't you have a squirrel farm growing up?
Of course. Here's the downside of squirrels. You get a lot of anxiety. Every time I see a squirrel, it is never, ever calm. It is running fast, ridiculously fast away from something, or it's terrified, its head jostling around back and forth at everything. Just never seems to kind of take its time. But pigeons, man.
Here's the downside of pigeons. Pigeons.
I mean, yeah. No argument there, but the powers, Mike. Powers of flight.
You're not a Pokemon.
That's what you get. You get the powers of flight from a pigeon.
If it was a Pidgeotto, maybe.
Or the powers to bob your head back and forth. And eat garbage on the street.
Now, pigeons can be trained. Maybe there is more intelligence to them than I thought. Because you have carrier pigeons.
That's true. They were trusted once, and now look at them.
Homing pigeons?
Homing pigeons? You never hear about homing squirrels?
Very rarely.
Or trained squirrels? Sometimes.
I'm sure they do. We should just pick one because there's really not a good answer.
Yeah, it's really not a good answer.
And we've been
here.
already talking
Well,
how long have we been talking about it? This is 5 minutes? Probably 5 minutes too long. But I feel like of all the birds to get bit by...
Yeah. These aren't winners, Mike. I didn't pick, like, the falcon and the wolf.
So why don't... Ooh, what a team up that would be. But speaking of, I'll be the squirrel, you be the pigeon, and we'll be a crime-fighting duo.
Super team, yeah.
Yeah.
I'll have the powers to, see things from above and, eat garbage if need be. Like, if we're stuck in, like, a garbage pit, I could eat our way out.
Yeah.
And you could,
I could have the power to be in the same family as the prairie dog.
Very cool.
Uh-huh.
You would have the powers to furrow away nuts.
Technically, squirrels includes tree squirrels, ground squirrels, chipmunks, marmots, including woodchucks.
They broke them up between tree squirrels and ground squirrels?
Flying squirrels and prairie dogs.
Wow. You could get all of those powers. Can you imagine? So many tree squirrel powers.
Oh my god, it'd be like Spider-Man the Other.
Well, just like regular Spider-Man, the spider that bites him has the combination of many great spiders. So you have the combination of many great squirrels.
That's movie Spider-Man.
Just think of all the things you could do with a ground squirrel, Mike. All the things.
Yeah, totally.
Man, we talked about this for way too long. Turns out, squirrel's probably the right answer.
Squirrels can rotate their hind feet, allowing them to descend a tree head first.
Whoa. That's really going to come in handy with crime fighting. Can you imagine?
You kick someone and then you turn your leg around and you kick them again.
And you kick them again.
The other way.
Also, if you really need to run away from someone, you can be doing it before you even turn around.
Yeah.
That's impressive right there. You're right. You've convinced me. I want to get bitten by a radioactive squirrel today. Well, guys, that was episode 58 of Because Comics. We'll be posting a new episode every other week. If you'd like to download more episodes or check out other similar podcasts, head over to partialarc.com. That's arc with a C. Of course, you can email us any questions at becausecomics@gmail.com or follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and Tumblr, all at partialarc. And be sure to check out more content from our comic boy wonder Mike Christensen at partialarc.com, where he writes articles every Tuesday and Thursday. Thanks for listening, and remember...
Do you know what happens to a toad when it gets struck by lightning?
Oh, man. Probably something really specific.
Very different from
than everything else. Confetti. That's what I'm gonna go. Confetti. I'm buzzing in.
Because comics.